So Georgia took on Marshall in Athens and beat them 45-7. Some people would say, well, it was only 45 points against Marshall. I had one person, I had Uncle Size tell me yesterday when we were talking about the Alabama game. We'll get to that in a minute. He was like, well, Georgia played Marshall. Yeah, Marshall was 10-2 last year, and Florida State was 2-10 last year. So there's a big. Now I understand Marshall's team got dismantled because a coach left and all that stuff. But whatever. Georgia played well. They worked through some things. I think Gunnar Stockton showed us what's up, and I think Georgia's going to be the Georgia team that we all thought they were going to be.
Yeah, I want to leave most of the comments on this game to be. I'm just going to tell you, I didn't watch a single snap of this game, but going back over and looking at the stat lines, it's kind of what you would have expected from a Kirby Smart coached, talent stocked Georgia team going up against Marshall or anybody else on that tier of football. Plug in App State, plug in San Diego State, right? Like pick a team. I don't care. Georgia went out there to manage the game, to get snaps to certain players, to get that on the field experience back, that juice running through the legs where these guys know, okay, cool, this is for real. We're in the 2025 season now. Let's go out and hit somebody. And if you look down the stat lines, Gunnar Stockton throws for 190 yards, 2 touchdowns. He runs for 73 yards and 2 more touchdowns. Dwight Phillips runs for 60 yards and a touchdown. Ryan Puglisi comes in and throws for 59 yards and a score. I mean, a lot of guys, a lot of dogs are getting action in this game, and that's kind of what Kirby does in game one. To me, it's not just that they put up 45 points. It's that they put up 45 points in a game where they were just trying to get guys some playing time, some minutes on the field, and move on to week 2. And they won by putting 45 on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was a very impressive showing by Stockton. I think I know we're playing Marshall, but at the end of the day, I think the only thing that I could really complain about is just I think the offensive line was a little rough for playing a team like Marshall. But we did have 2 injuries in both of our guards. So hopefully Juan Gaston and Ernest Green are looking okay this week. We're going to find out here soon. But I think, the running backs played good. Dwight Phillips really showed off his speed, that first touchdown on the sideline. Really excited about the defense more than anything. I think this defense has really high potential.
Yeah, I would agree with the defense for sure. And I just also want to we're going to have there's going to be some people out there that are going, it was Marshall and you only put up 45 points. Let me just say this. When Kirby Smart plays a team like a Marshall, like we're going to play next week with Austin Peay, he takes that opportunity not to run it down people's throats and make it a 75-0 score. He takes the opportunity to work through some of his things and get people not only playing time, but just work through certain schemes and this and that, blah, blah, blah. So my comments on all that is, we'll see. I think 45 points against a team like Marshall, I thought we saw a lot of what the Bulldogs have on the roster. I think they are going to have an absolute phenomenal season.
Yeah, and to that point, if you look at the box score, this game was in hand from the very beginning. You're 14-0 after the first quarter. You're 24-0 at the half. You put on another 14 in the third. Like this game was over before it started, really. And that does give a coach like Kirby Smart the opportunity to say, all right, let's get out there and let's work on this play a little bit more. Let's get this kid some snaps because we're likely to use him at some point this year for this, that, the other. He's going to work his whole season in that setting because the game's already won at that point. Right. So what else can we accomplish? How else can we be productive on the field for the next 3 quarters that we've got to be here for? Marshall puts up 7 in the fourth quarter. People, this game was never a contest.
No, and one of the things as I was watching this game that Kirby did that I hope he continues to do more this season than he has in the past, or at least I hope we're in a better situation that he can do it more, is he did play QB2 Puglisi. And it was right, it was somewhere in the middle of the third quarter he came in. But what I would like to see him do is play him with the starting offense. And I think that would bode well, because I go back and I look at the I look at the playoffs last year when Stockton had to come in. Now, Stockton came in on some of the games last season, but it was with the second or third string offense, right? So he didn't have that continuity with the first team, the first team reps, right? So I would like to see him, if we get in some situations and we're up by a good comfortable, put in Puglisi, put in QB2, and allow him to run a series or two with your starters. I think that would help in the long run in case something catastrophic, and I'm going to use that word because to me it would be catastrophic if Stockton goes down.
Yeah, absolutely. And just real quick before we move on, he didn't get a catch yesterday, but number 11 on our offense, Talon Taylor, he's going to be an absolute dog going forward. Hopefully we can get him some more snaps too. He was a 4-star receiver out of Illinois. He has ridiculous potential, so y'all just keep eyes on number 11.
What about that tight end that caught the touchdown
Elias
pass?
Williams? Yeah.
True freshman.
I mean, he likely has the highest potential of any player on our team, not named Zayden Walker. I think Zayden Walker is going to be a first-round pick, probably top 10 pick. But yeah, Elias has everything you could possibly want in a tight end. He could block. He's 6'8", and he's fast. So, I mean, what else do you want? I think, he's basically another offensive lineman. He's Darnell Washington that can really move. That's what he is. Just crazy to think of.
And I think Zachariah Branch is going to have an incredible season this year at Georgia.
Yeah, that's one thing I forgot to touch on. I think he is easily our most impactful transfer portal move, because the way Bobo likes to run his scheme, he likes those, dump off screen passes. We couldn't do that last year. We didn't have that personnel last year to be able to run crazy plays like that. And now that we have him, who's like Arian Smith, where he has the long speed, but he also has the burst that Arian didn't have, or the twitchiness, the elusiveness around the corner. Like, I think he's going to really take this offense to the next level.
Yeah, we talk about some of these other wide receivers in the league, Ryan Williams and the Jeremiah Smiths. What made them great last year was not only their ability to catch the ball, but it was their yards after catch. And I think Zachariah Branch gives Georgia that yards after catch. Brock Bowers gave Georgia yards after catch. And I think that's going to be big for Georgia this season. We're going to spend some time on this game. A number 13, South Carolina, went to – y'all played in – yeah, it was in Atlanta. You took on Virginia Tech. Beamer versus Beamer, or Beamer versus Old Beamer. A lot of implications, Beamer spent a lot of time at Virginia Tech. His dad, he did all great. And South Carolina and LaNorris Sellers did what we expected them to do, and they beat them 24-11. What a game. Chicken, proceed.
This was an interesting game. It was never a game that was in doubt in my mind. And yes, I watched every snap, Tater fan. Yes, I watched every snap, Bob. Speaking of that, Bob, how do you feel about LaNorris? That's what I figured. It was one of those outings where, typical of a week one, it takes the offense a minute to get into rhythm. First possession, man, South Carolina just moves the ball straight down the field, boom, 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 and is in the end zone for a LaNorris Sellers rushing touchdown, 13 carries for 25 yards, and that score on the day. He would throw for another 209 yards and another touchdown to Nick Harbor later on. The turning point in this game, however, came in the special teams. Yes, a Beamer specialty. Vicari Swain took a punt return back 80 yards for the score. That one really flipped the switch. This was kind of, I don't want to say it was back and forth because there was never a back. It was always Carolina going forward and Virginia Tech trying to keep up. But this was the difference maker, in my opinion. This is where South Carolina really separated themselves from the Hokies in this ball game, was on this punt return for a touchdown. The defense looked great. My biggest question coming into this game was the fact that we had lost so much of our defensive front. We had also lost Nick Imamori, arguably the heart and soul of that defensive secondary, possibly the entire defensive unit last year to the NFL. A lot of talent gone to the next level up. So a lot of new faces starting out there for the Gamecocks, but the defense looked strong against a Virginia Tech team that was not going to quit.
Yeah, it was a good team too, man. I like Drones a lot. I think he played pretty solid for Virginia Tech's quarterback. But I'm excited to see the rest of South Carolina's season. Hopefully Dylan Stewart is isn't too banged up. I know he's got a shoulder injury they're looking at right now. I think the X factor of this team is Nick Harbor, man. If he continues to do numbers like this, they're going to be looking really good. Was really high on him last year, but he just didn't have it all together as a receiver. But now it looks like his route running is looking a little bit better, and they should have gave him that other touchdown.
They definitely should have. I completely disagree with the ref's call. However, if you're a fan of the show, you know that will not be uncommon. When it comes to the officiating against the Gamecocks, yes, I said it, against the Gamecocks, they love to make bad calls in our direction.
You know, there's two takeaways that I got from this game. And that is one, you alluded to this earlier, man, a few minutes ago, man, about how many people y'all lost on your defense into the NFL, right? And have graduated. So the question is always going to be, the question was going into the season, can Beamer reload? Can he rebuild that defense and do what a Kirby Smart does every year? Because Georgia's defense gets picked apart every year, right? But Kirby's a defensive guy, and he knows how to rebuild a defense. Question was, does Shane Beamer? And look, it's Virginia Tech. I mean, it's not like they played Austin Peay or something like that, man, or whatever. It's Virginia Tech. And so I think the question is, yes, he rebuilt the defense. And it's going to be led by Dylan Stewart, man. And I think that's a good thing. Very solid performance. And the other question that I think that was answered yesterday, and I know it's still week one, is, was LaNorris Sellers' performance last year a fluke? And does he have a place in either a Heisman talk or just in the top of SEC or the NFL draft, whatever this kid's future holds? Is he at that level? And my answer is yes, he is. He proved that yesterday, that LaNorris Sellers is a name that everybody should remember.
The thing about LaNorris that's different from a lot of the other Heisman candidates, again, we just went over his stat lines. He ran the ball for 25 yards and a score. He threw the ball for 209 yards and a score. Not your typical impressive Heisman stat line. I mean, it's good, but it's not one of those things that makes you scream Heisman. But when you watch LaNorris Sellers in the game and the things that he does that other players just can't do, he does things on a football field that you don't see anywhere else. Those are Heisman-worthy moments. Now, let me back up to say this. I believe, as a Gamecock fan, that LaNorris Sellers is good enough to win the Heisman Trophy. I'm not sure that that's going to happen this year. I believe that even if LaNorris ends up being one of those 5 that gets invited to New York, in all likelihood, he's still probably not going to be the guy holding the trophy up at the end of the meeting. I think he's going to need more of what he already does on the field, those special Superman moments, but he's also going to need more big, bright stat lines to make people give him the nod.
Yeah, I agree. Only one touchdown, 209 yards this game, but I do think that it was just a pretty strong defensive game on either ends. But I do think if he's one of those finalists, I think that means he's done well enough to be a first round pick. So I think he's out regardless. I think he's posed right now to be a top 10, top 15 pick. We'll see how Caden, Gary, and we'll see if Carson even puts himself back into that conversation. But right now, I got him as top 3 with Garrett and Cade.
And look, that may be the case. But in Beamer's defense, and I mean, I'm a Georgia guy, man, but I'm gonna tell you, I'll still say if LaNorris Sellers leaves after this season, and I know we're discussing this after week 1. We got a lot of weeks to go, right? So there's no telling what happens. But I have confidence in Shane Beamer that it's going to be the next man up. I think he's going to have that same philosophy, that same mindset, and prove to be good enough to be able to use it like a Kirby, like a Nick Saban, or a Dabo Sweeney. Man, it's next man up, and we're going to be rolling again. We're going to keep going. I don't think LaNorris Sellers is what South Carolina is. I think South Carolina is built around a Shane Beamer, not LaNorris Sellers. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you can look back to the days of Steve Spurrier and some of the quarterbacks that came in and had really nice winning records. Blake Mitchell was one of them. I mean, nothing on a national scale that was flashy about Blake Mitchell, but he won a lot of games at South Carolina. Connor Shaw, arguably the best quarterback ever to put on a garnet jersey, never got any type of a Heisman nod, never was in that kind of a conversation, yet he led the Gamecocks to their 3 most successful consecutive seasons in which they won 11 games each of those 3 years. And that was during the Connor Shaw era. Behind LaNorris Sellers right now, you've got Cutter Woods backing him up. There's a lot of stuff to be said about Cutter and what he did in high school. He's a freshman this year. I think that Carolina is set, and I think that it's because, as you alluded to, this team is not built around one player or one facet of the offense or the defense. This team is built around the coach and that culture that we keep talking about. Georgia is built around Kirby Smart and the culture that he instills. Alabama was built around Nick Saban and the culture that he instilled. I would say that Lane Kiffin is what Ole Miss is built around right now. South Carolina following in those footsteps.